I'm Charlie Bright with Gold Derby, and today I'm speaking with Sharon Bialy and Gohar Gazazyan, who served as the casting directors for Showtime's limited series, The Comey Rule. Sharon, I guess I'm just going to get the most obvious question out of the way first. What did you look for when you got the task of casting someone to play Donald Trump?
It was the most daunting of all for a lot of reasons. I think as we also, just to let you know, we've had pictures of all of the real life characters up on in our office. So we always had those pictures in front of us looking, and we didn't care about getting an exact match, but we really wanted to find the essence of the character. But in particular with Trump, we really had to match it closely. So Gohar and I had a very good list of a lot of fantastic actors, but once we thought of Brendan Gleeson, it was like we were done. But you're really not done, because there's a long involved process after that. But it was also very helpful because so many American actors really didn't feel comfortable playing the role, given how at the time Trump was on Twitter and so powerful and could quickly bully. So in some senses, it was a little bit easier to find someone who, wasn't political in this country. But getting Brendan Gleeson to say yes was challenging for, a lot of reasons. Why would he want to come over here and get involved in American politics and everything that was going on? And he passed originally. And we sort of waited a couple days, and we were both just like, he has to do this. He's perfect. And I turned to Gohar and I said, I'm going to write a really beautiful letter to his manager. And Gohar said, you go do that, Sharon. And I wrote this beautiful letter to him. And then I just kept calling and saying, he really should talk to Billy. He really should talk to Billy, or read it again. And the manager was really helpful, I have to say, in reading it again and saying, let me talk to him. And we just didn't want to take no for an answer. And I'm really glad we didn't.
And just to add to that, I mean, not only was the role daunting because, he was the actual president of the United States still at the time, and had a powerful platform and used it very effectively when there was any criticism his way. He was also he's just such a unique individual. His mannerisms and his way that he carries himself is so specific, and it has been done so much in comedy, and there was just not what we wanted to do. And we were really leaning towards a sort of authentic portrayal of him, but there's still that part of him that is almost like a sketch version of a person. So to find an actor who could balance all of those things and bring all the different components of the personality, I think it was not a long list, as you can imagine, to begin with. This is so specific. And so we were so happy that Brendan, who was really the guy that we wanted, ultimately said yes.
He was in one of my favorite movies, In Bruges, that I've watched one too many times. So I couldn't get his image out of my head for Trump. So yeah, it was a full court press, and I'm really glad. I thought the portrayal was just fantastic.
And I just wanted to, before I go to Gohar, I wanted to just ask something else to you, Sharon, about Brendan Gleeson, because he did another performance in the movie Into the Storm, where he played Winston Churchill, and he did have a lot of makeup on, but he was still able to. But he did a great job of transcending the makeup, and really the performance was what stood out. Was that something that was in your mind when thinking of Brendan Gleeson?
Well, not really, because Billy Ray had always said from day one that as much as he had admired all the sketches like the great Alec Baldwin, it was exactly what he didn't want to do. So I felt like we knew when you have an extraordinary actor, he didn't even, he had less of a haircut than Trump. They did everything as realistic as they could. So I think we just had faith. Sometimes, even Billy says, well, explain why you like that person for this role. And sometimes I just say, it's just a sense. It's just like our spidey sense, and it just feels right.
And so, Gohar, to you, I want to ask on the flip side, what did you look for when it came to casting someone to play Jim Comey?
Well, that, was another space where we talked early on about just a number of wonderful actors. And for me and Sharon, I think what we kept coming back to was the sort of qualities of him that you see in the public space. And that's the way that he carries himself. There's a sort of quiet civility, a sort of dignity with which he carries himself. He is the complete opposite of Donald Trump in a way, who's so flashy. The way he communicates is very sort of still and straightforward. And so what we were looking for was an actor who was going to bring that sense of integrity, that sense of a really decent person. And so, I mean, Jeff Daniels can do anything, but he has that in spades, right? So it was just, that was an important component of it. Also, honestly, we were trying to be as true to characters as possible, though we weren't getting caught up on someone who looks like that person, but we wanted someone who had his sort of physicality, his stature, not someone who was actually 6'7", but someone who was physically a good match. I think that was important in this project because this was happening in real time. These people were all over our phones, our television. I mean, it was everywhere. So I think you had to honor to some degree the characteristics of a person, the physical and traits, as well as the sort of personality traits. And then, I mean, talk about an actor magnet. When you cast Jeff Daniels, the creme de la creme is going to want to come tell the story with him. So we were very fortunate to get him. And
it was interesting because Jeff waited to really come on board because he wanted to make sure not only who he was surrounded by everywhere else, but Trump was the linchpin for him. He needed to know who was going to pay Trump before. And his agent was in constant contact with us, wanting to know what was going on. And, you never want to say in Hollywood, trust me, because it just doesn't really work. But we had to say, look at the kind of work Gohar and I do. Look at what Bialy is doing. We are not going to compromise on this role at all. And we're going to make sure Jeff Daniel has that scene is just so, that scene between the two of them has to be electric.
Yeah.
So Sharon, to you, I'm curious, who was the hardest character to cast for this project? Was it Trump, or was there another character that was more difficult to cast?
Well, I think Trump was the most difficult because if we didn't get the right Trump, we really wouldn't have had this miniseries. You couldn't make it, So in that sense, that was the most difficult. I think they're all difficult, but because you really want to get it just right. However, one of them was Obama. And honestly, I give a lot of credit to our producer, Shane Salerno, who wouldn't let us settle. We had found a couple of people that were good actors who really looked like him, and he just felt they didn't have that star power in a way that Obama has himself. And we had just, like Gohar, you had just looked into Ben Kingsley.
Well, we had just been introduced to Kingsley by his agent, and we were so taken with him. And actually, he had just auditioned a tape for us for another project we were casting at the time. And Sharon and I were just smitten, in a way that we get so, there are certain actors you just get so excited about. And he was a little young. And so that was the thing that was kind of holding us back. But you couldn't deny the sort of, again, the gracefulness that Barack Obama has, that Kingsley himself also has. And there was a physical resemblance. And so we talked a lot about aging him up a little bit. And he has that sort of charm, that accessibility. And so for us, I think we just kept coming back to that. And the producers were equally excited about the possibility of him. And so that was a tough one. Sharon's right, because you have to get him right as well. Another person who is very close to people's hearts, and you just can't. It has to work.
And I think Reince Priebus was a tough one. And, I don't like to toot our own horn, but I think we nailed it. I just thought TR Knight was so fantastic and brought a lot of humor to the role, but not a caricature. And that was a tough, you had to just really get that one right. All of them right in a way.
So to Gohar, I want to ask, is it tougher? Do you find it tougher to cast a project where the characters are real life people rather than original characters?
I don't find it tougher. I actually find it fun. I find it a really cool challenge, and we do it. We've done it many times before, where you cast a piece that's sort of a historical piece, and you're basing it on real people. This was the first time we did a piece that was literally happening. I mean, it was so present. So that part was an even bigger challenge, but I think for us exciting. And so what we did, and it's always fun. I mean, we just plaster people all over, their pictures all over our office. We were watching videos, any kind of videos of people that was available where they had made public statements or anything that we had access to, we were devouring. And then really sitting and combing through a list of actors and sort of trying to find inspiration that way. I mean, there were certain roles that were no-brainers. Like, to me, Michael Kelly as Andy McCabe was a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
He had done a film for Billy that we had cast, so we were like, this is who we're casting. This is non-negotiable.
Right. And Billy was like, you're right.
You're right.
Yep.
Jonathan Banks is James Clapper. These are no-brainers, Right. And then with other things, we just kind of had fun with it.
And I think with Scoot McNairy for Rod Rosenstein, when Gohar and I feel so strongly, it's a little bit of a hard force to be reckoned with, but Billy Ray has fantastic taste. And when he sees it, he's so sure of his own craft and what he's doing and the story he's telling. He doesn't need to shop around like certain, directors and producers do. He sees it, he knows it, he goes, let's do it, get him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very rewarding for a casting director, to think of someone, really believe in it, talk to your director, and him go, that's it. Doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
So, one of the other things that I thought was so interesting about this miniseries, especially in terms of the casting, was seeing so many very well-known people show up playing characters that didn't appear in the series too much. Like one of them that you said, TR Knight as Reince Priebus, Joe Latrulio as Attorney General Jeff Sessions, and Peter Coyote as Robert Mueller. I'm curious, how do you get known people to be in roles where they're not in it that much? It seems like that could be a tough thing to try to wrangle them into.
It can. I don't think it was as much on this one. I think Billy Ray is an actor magnet. Actors love him. I think most of the actors felt a real commitment to being in this so that they could have something to say politically. Mm-hmm. Like Spencer Garrett is such a great actor, and he came on and did a small role. We have, like you said, so many of those examples, and I think people just wanted to be a part of something and see if they could make a difference. And you do one line with Jeff Daniels, or it's often better than 25 lines with a lesser actor in terms of how you're growing as an artist for the actors that are doing it. And it's a good lesson for people. Don't look at the size of the role, look at who you're working with. Because a lot of the roles that we didn't think were big on paper, like you said, they were really important. Like Mark Giuliani was one of my favorites. Brian Darcy James.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of my favorites in the whole piece. I just thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, in many ways, he's sort of like the heart of the piece, along with Jennifer Ely as Patrice Comey. And I think exactly what Sharon said. Once you have Jeff Daniels and Brendan Gleeson, and you have a story this important, and with the kind of talent that you have in terms of Billy and our incredible producers, a lot of actors will want to come and play. They want to be a part of an important project. They feel like it's making a statement. So I think we were pleasantly surprised, not surprised, but it was wonderful to see so many actors so game to come and do this.
It's not like we went after John Voight.
Yes. Well
With
said.
all due
Or
respect,
James
he's a
Woods, for
great
that
actor.
matter.
Great actor. But
Well, Sharon and Gohar, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best during this upcoming Emmy season. And to our
Thank
viewers,
you.
please like this video, smash that subscribe button, and don't forget to go to goldderby.com and use the Gold Derby app to make your predictions and see if you can outsmart the top prognosticators in Hollywood. Thanks again.
thank
Thank
you.
you so much.